For most people who coach or compete, anorexia is a familiar concept, and we tend to think we know it when we see it. We think of athletes who look like this or this, and by the time we leave high school, most of us have personal experience either ourselves or as a friend to someone who is struggling. As familiar as anorexia nervosa may be, however, it's not the only anorexia that disrupts athletic performance. Anorexia athletica is different. These athletes don't meet the criteria to be diagnosed with anorexia as you and I think of it. Athletes with anorexia athletica can look like this or like this. Anorexia athletica is a condition that arises in athletes who are driven to perform. They see older teammates or pro athletes in their sport playing better than they are and are up against limited roster spots for varsity teams or starting lineups. Couple this with the perfectionist, competitive attitude that makes them good athletes in the first place, and you find someone looking to gain every edge that they can. Many think that if they can just lose a little fat and gain a little more fitness, they'll get over the hump and reach their goals. If only I was as fit as Rondo or Cowher Goucher, I'd reach my goals. This drive for fitness leads some not to eat enough to replace the huge quantities of energy they expend at practice or in a game. They might eat as much as a normal person, but normal people don't play intensive sports. Athletes suffering from anorexia athletica often maintain a normal body weight, at least for a little while, but fairly quickly begin to suffer from decreased or erratic performances. They become moody and suffer multiple minor injuries as the body struggles to repair itself with decreased fuel availability. As performances take a tumble, self-esteem and confidence do too. This isn't just some hypothetical situation. Research has shown that if you're on an endurance sports team, up to 30% of your teammates might suffer from anorexia athletica. On ball sports teams, it's 20%. On a technical sports team like tennis or golf, the number is around 15%. Regardless of the type of team you're on, at least one of your teammates or athletes is likely dealing with this right now. If anorexia athletica isn't full-blown anorexia, why do we care about it? Wouldn't it just mean a bad season or a mediocre sports career? The damage that someone can do to their body by not eating enough while playing intensive athletics is enormous. Both male and female athletes suffer from decreased bone density. You're supposed to be building the bulk of your bone in your late teens and early 20s. If you don't, you're at risk for developing osteoporosis and fractures later in life. There is also increasing evidence that anorexia athletica damages the lining of blood vessels, making effective athletes more prone to stroke and heart attack later in life. For female athletes, disordered eating is part of the female athlete triad, a situation where decreased energy intake leads to irregular menstrual cycles and decreased bone density. Okay, so how do we prevent anorexia athletica from occurring? You can't totally prevent any medical condition, but research has shown that team culture, particularly the messages that athletes receive from their coaches and teammates, is the most important factor in determining whether or not they will develop anorexia athletica during their sports careers. It's important to create a team culture that enables both healthy lifestyles and strong athletic performance. The overriding message in such a team culture should be that playing time is determined by work ethic, attitude, and performance, and that looks or body type play no role. Comments from coaches or teammates that focus on an athlete's appearance serve no purpose in terms of increasing team performance. There is simply no such thing as a wrong body type for an athlete. To this end, I was once at a track meet watching the women's 1500-meter run. A coach next to me started screaming at one of his runners with a lap to go that, quote, an ox, meaning another runner who did not meet his ideal of a distance runner's body, was catching her. "How can you let that ox pass you?" he screamed. The ox won handily, and both athletes probably felt wonderful about themselves. Oh, wait. When talking about food with your athletes or teammates, it's important to call food what it is: just another part of the training process. Don't avoid talking about it and don't make it special. Just like athletes need to sleep, stretch, take care of little aches and pains or injuries, they need to eat. They simply need to replace the energy they expend at practice or in games so that they can go back out the next day and do it again, hopefully a little stronger this time. It's okay to encourage healthy eating and dissuade athletes from eating junk, but don't talk about diets or weight loss. You're just setting up for disaster. In today's technological world, it's easy to compare the body and food to your beloved smartphone and its charger. If you plug the phone in all night after a long day, it'll be ready for whatever weird stuff you use it for in the morning. Just like if you eat enough and sleep after a long day at school and practice, your body will be ready to perform again the next day. But suppose you're out late one night and your phone only has a chance to charge to 95% before you leave the house the next morning. Or, in our analogy, you don't eat enough after practice one day and your muscles only rebuild to 95%. Probably not a huge deal. Your phone and body will make it through tomorrow. But if the next day you end up with another 5% deficit, suddenly you're down to 90%. And after a few more days or weeks of this, suddenly you're at 60%, and then 30%. And then you've got your selfie stick out, and you get the dreaded connect to charger message. You're in the middle of a workout or game, and your body just can't do it anymore. You end up benched or injured. Remember, food is just another important part of training. So what do you do if a teammate or athlete starts showing signs of disordered eating, like the decreased performance, irritability, or obsession with healthy food that we talked about earlier? The most important thing, whether you are a teammate or a coach, is not to tackle this situation alone. Even at the high school level, you have lots of support. School nurses, health teachers, physical education teachers, athletic trainers, administrators, parents, community healthcare professionals, and so on. If you have a good relationship with the athlete in question, you can start by talking to them. Make sure it's private and that you're sensitive but straightforward. The National Eating Disorders Association gives a sample script. It's canned and sounds like a robot made it, but you'll get the idea. You could say something like, "Sally, I really value you as a team member and appreciate X, Y, and Z about your contributions to the team. I'm concerned, however, because you're having a hard time focusing, aren't as social with your teammates, and I'm worried you're becoming overly restrictive in your eating. I think it might be hurting your training. I think you could really benefit from seeing a dietitian or other healthcare professional for an evaluation to determine if there's a problem. I want you to have a great season. Would you be willing to explore this idea with me?" Okay, that sounds nice. But what if the athlete in question tells you that they're fine? If you're an athlete yourself, it's probably time to get back up in the form of a coach or trusted adult. If you're the coach, you could respond with, "I hope I'm wrong, but let's get an evaluation to be sure. Something isn't adding up with your performance." Remember, the most important thing you can do as an athlete or coach is to create a positive team environment in the first place. Again, research has shown that this is the biggest protective factor in reducing the incidence of anorexia athletica. If you'd like more help or want to learn more, there are lots of other resources out there. A list of a few particularly good ones is at the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Good luck with your season.